We have so much to talk about this afternoon. I'm glad you're with us. It is a Monday. Oh, wait a minute. I'm jumping in here. This is like a premature verbalization. All right, let's go. Play the song. Yes, it is. I wish it was Sunday so we can relive the Saints' victory yesterday. Those guys literally, physically just beat up the Tampa Bay Bucks. And then the Tampa Bay Bucks tried to retaliate. It started with Jameis Winston pointing his finger and hitting Lattimore. And then, oh, my God, it was crazy. And then, I mean, look, that guy Evans, that guy could have broken Lattimore's back. I mean, could have seriously injured him. I don't know why that guy wasn't thrown out of the game. Anyway, that's part of what we can talk about. I was sitting in the Dome yesterday watching the game, and honestly, I thought, man, this is going to be great. Monday afternoon is a Monday, but we'll be talking about the Saints' victory. And while I was sitting there, I got the WWL News text alert on my phone that there was a mass shooting in Texas at a church, of all places. And, you know, once again, here we are talking about a mass shooting. The statistics of the frequency of mass shootings are racking up faster than ideas for solutions. On a typical Sunday in a small Texas community, Sutherland Springs, Texas, just outside of San Antonio, the congregation was doing what they do every Sunday morning. They were worshiping at the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs. The service was interrupted when a gunman fired shots into the church from the outside, then entered the church and opened fire on the congregation as they worshiped. 26 worshipers were killed, ranging in age from 5 to 72. The victims included the 14-year-old daughter of the church's pastor, Frank Pomeroy, who was not present at the time of the shooting. The impact of this mass church shooting yesterday is, I think, exaggerated by the fact that 26 in a community of 600 were killed. That's 4% of the population of Sutherland Springs, Texas. And the fact that they were killed by somebody while they were worshiping in a church creates this ironic contextual appreciation of what really happened. While in Japan on his Asia trip, President Trump was asked what caused the tragic shooting. The president said, "Mental health is your problem here." And he went on to call the shooter a very deranged individual. That's all true. This was consistent with his comments after last month's mass shooting in Las Vegas. President Trump went out of his way to say this is not the time to talk about gun control. I have to bring this up. That led to instant criticism that Trump immediately talked about changing immigration laws in the wake of the terrorist attack in New York City. If it is fair to ask why it is appropriate to talk about changing immigration laws after the killings in New York and purposely avoid talking about gun control laws, see, this is the hypocrisy that you and I are faced with every day. And it doesn't matter whether President Trump is a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter if he's attacked by the media. That doesn't matter. What matters is we've got a clear case of hypocrisy. That's not the focus of this discussion, but this is part of the conversation because it's part of the president's reaction. My opinion was that it was wrong to immediately bring up the hot political issue of immigration after last week's terrorist attack. It is also wrong to bring up gun control after yesterday's church shooting. But don't you see the inconsistency of our political leaders on both sides is a threat to our civility? The shooter, Devin Kelly, and I'm not going to use his name much, he was discharged from the Air Force after a domestic violence incident involving a gunman's wife and child, or the gunman's wife and child. The gunman spent a year in jail, and there are questions being asked about how the gunman was able to obtain a gun, because there are reports that he was denied a concealed carry permit, but that didn't stop him from getting a gun. Some mass shootings unveil inconsistencies in existing laws. They also expose this lack of communication between various agencies. Before we engage in a heated political debate about gun control laws, maybe we should talk about connecting the dots of the existing laws. Yesterday's church shooting has also resurrected this issue of greater security at churches. This has now reached mainstream conversation again. That really did become part of the conversation back in 2015 after the church shooting of young white supremacist Dylan Roof in South Carolina. A neighbor of the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs, Texas, used his rifle to shoot the gunman. And Johnny Langendorf was at the intersection at the time of the shooting. The gunman got in the guy with the rifle got in the car. They pursued the gunman at speeds that went up to over 90 miles an hour. The gunman lost control of his SUV and crashed. Police found him dead inside the vehicle. There are reports the gunman may have turned a gun on himself, but there are other reports suggesting that maybe he died as a result of wounds that he suffered in the exchange of gunfire with the citizen neighbor of the church. The neighbor of the church and the passing motorist, these people are heroes for taking quick action. The church shooting also sparked the debate over security in churches. It is illegal to carry concealed weapons in churches in Louisiana. However, Governor Bobby Jindal did sign a law a few years ago allowing concealed carry in churches if you get permission from the church and if the individual goes through a background check and gun training. The states of Mississippi and Arkansas have recently passed Church Protection Acts, which ends the prohibition of a concealed handgun in church. Is this an answer to the problem? I mean, think about this gunman, dressed in all black tactical gear, walking into a church during a worship service yesterday, killing 26 people. The gunman drove 45 minutes to the church, where his in-laws of his ex-wife attended church, but they were not at the service yesterday. The gunman spent time in jail on domestic violence, and as I write this and talk about this, there was really no motive determined yet, except that maybe it appears as if he was angry with his ex-in-laws and angry with his ex. So this is, once again, about revenge. It's about anger. Did he randomly select this church? It doesn't appear that way. We now live with mass shootings, even in the sanctuary of a church Sunday service, as the new normal. And it hurts me to say that, but this is the new normal. There appears to be a growing mentality in American society that insists that we are entitled to satisfaction, whether it's a grievance at work, injustice in the streets, a problem with a neighbor, or anger that is built up over things not going our way. We now have this sense that we are entitled to satisfying our rage. From road rage to aggressive bullying on social media to killing a large number of people in what is almost always a suicide mission. What are you feeling right now? We're Americans. We're people. What do you feel? I mean, this is happening too often. And I do believe this is the new norm. Because in the short term, I just don't understand what is going to change this. This is a guy in his mid-20s. And he apparently was angry, so angry that he went into a church and killed people. Can't blame the gun for that. Can't blame the tactical gear for that. But maybe there are some things that should have prevented this guy, or at least made it more difficult for this guy to get a gun. We'll talk more about that coming up next with Dave Newman with Concealed Carry NOLA. Dave is an expert in these laws and in gun handling. So I want to ask him specifically the question about why was this guy denied a concealed carry permit and yet he was still able to get a gun? Is that something that should be allowed? If you want to join us with your thoughts and your feelings and your comments this afternoon, our number is 260-1870. Area code 504-260-1870. text 870-870. I'm Scoot, and we'll be back on WWL.